Chapter 32. Cassandra ran and grappled over a mile before she finally stopped to catch her breath, leaned against some nondescript brick building near Amusement Mile. She felt sick, held onto her forehead, and tried to make sense of the conversation she'd just had. She felt surprisingly thankful for Stephanie's injury. Once again, she was desperate to be alone. Only a little more than a month ago, everything made sense. She sat in St. Michael's, struggling to make sense of these once foreign ideas of faith, and suddenly it completely washed over her. She was sure God came to give her assurance. Sure she was called like Moses in front of the burning bush. And then Stephanie called her feeling sinful. How could the God and the Jesus she met in that beautiful dream fault her for those emotions? Was that all it really was? A beautiful dream? She only meant to stop for a minute or two, but halted in place when she heard footsteps coming from both sides of the alley. "Looks like we've finally got our fallen angel all alone." Cassandra's hand went quickly to her mask to alert her allies, but as she switched on the radio function, she found only a soft humming sound. Confused, she tried to switch to cellular, but found that crippled as well. Her eyes darted between the men dressed in black as they entered both sides of the alley. Two of them held separate jammers tauntingly. At least a dozen converged on her in the middle of the walkway. "We're the only ones who are going to save you now," one of them said. "Why don't you stand down right away? The Seraphim will be here soon." Angel's focus remained on the two jammers, as she tried to force thoughts of her talk with Stephanie out of her mind. If she could take those out, she could call for assistance. It wouldn't be necessary most nights, but on this one she felt desperate to end the fight as fast as possible. As they continued to cram the alley, Angel made her first move. She rushed at the group to her right, delivered an open palm to the nearest man's face, and sent him crashing backwards into a brick wall. Her next enemy advanced, the tallest of the bunch who bore a shaved head. Angel delivered a kick to his gut, and followed with an uppercut, which seemed to dispose him. Though her first two attacks were well managed, she still felt distracted by thoughts of her conversation with Stephanie. Enough so she failed to pay attention when her next opponent grabbed the lid of a trash can and smashed it into the back of her head. Angel shook. The pain of the blunt strike nearly put her to the ground, but she resisted enough to rip the lid from his hand and bash him back with it. 3 down, 3 to go. Or so she thought. Just after she dropped the lid of the garbage can, she felt a kick to the back of her left leg that knocked her to the ground with a cry of pain. The 6 from the opposite ends of the alley closed in, and she was now on the ground, open to all their attacks. From out of one eye she saw through the legs of her attackers. 2 shapes stood on the opposite sides of the alley as if guarding it. Her heart sunk further. They were cherubim. If there were 2 at one end, there would surely be 2 on the opposite side as well. Escape would be impossible without taking out every last one of them. She still tried to force the questions out of her mind as she sustained a number of kicks to the stomach and face. Then Angel forced herself up. She threw kicks at the nearest 2 and forced them backwards. The taste of blood was fresh in her mouth. Bruises started to form around her eyes. She had taken plenty of beatings before, but her few martial arts equals always tried to stay careful and meticulous with every attack. The Seraphim's servants were hardly different from ordinary thugs, and yet she was being pushed. "What Stephanie said does not matter now," Angel told herself. "I have to defeat them before... God, Lord, Jesus, if you're with me, lead me through." As attackers closed in from every side, fists and feet flew at her, she reclaimed some of her concentration. Angel jumped toward the wall of the building and kicked off of it, while dodging many of the strikes, and threw herself into the battle again as she landed. There were too many to block all at once, so whatever strike came, she forced it into the back of her mind, banished along with the thoughts of sin and beautiful dreams. She sent 2 of them crashing into the brick walls, grappled with others, and even pounded 2 heads together. Attack, dodge, block, hit. Everything slowly melded together as she fought back. Angel fended off those who converged from the front of the group to face her directly, even if she did earn some bruises and an increasingly loud ringing in her head whenever they got in a good hit. For the few minutes of that trance, Angel regained her advantage. Even the attacks that did connect hardly slowed her down as she moved from one opponent to the next. Soon she overcame 10. The last 2, still clutching jammers, watched with looks that turned from entertainment to fear and later to shock. Angel stood up from the last of the 10. Her costume was ripped, welts formed, and a little blood trickled from her mouth, but she stood undeterred nevertheless. As she was about to attack the last two, still unsure how to overcome the cherubim, the sound of clapping began to echo through the alley. She stopped in place, turned around, and watched as a third figure walked between two of the cherubim. Such incredible power! Truly the Lord has blessed this little lost sheep. Out from the shadows came the seraphim, stepping over the bodies of his fallen legion. Angel tried to hold her stance, but after the beating she'd endured, she wasn't sure she could do much to combat the wobbling in her legs and the pain that slowly came to the surface. This was not at all helped by the seraphim's sheer size as he towered over her. The two wings at his back extended, and the two over his eyes kept him concealed. As far as she could tell, he carried neither his sword nor his guns, but his tattooed physique was more than menacing enough without them. "Be not afraid!" The seraphim met her in the center of the alley. "I have come to deliver you from darkness into light." The young woman remained in place as he stepped forward, studying him. Angel looked over him in search of the easiest place to deconstruct his armored vest. If she could pry it down and get a strike to his heart, she could surely end the fight in an instant. Angel immediately went for the clasps on his shoulders. The seraphim's reaction was quick, as he grabbed a hold of her head and sent her careening into the brick wall at their side. The spinning quickly became more violent as he pulled her from the wall and paused, as if letting Angel get her bearings. Though she still could not see him clearly, she tried her best, again and again, to land a hit. The seraphim dodged and blocked her with casual ease. "Such a desperate creature you are," the seraphim said. "I could teach you how to use that power, and how to use that faith." "Leave me alone!" Angel drew a pair of batarangs and tried to slash at him. In effort, the seraphim evaded with ease. "I don't know what happened to you, but something did," he said. "You went from the bat secularism to taking a holy title, just like I did, and right after I arrived. Do you think that a coincidence?" "You are a monster!" Angel's movements turned desperate to land a single hit, and, to her relief, she got a hand on and disconnected the left shoulder strap. The seraphim paid this no mind at first, only raised a foot and kicked her in the face for her efforts. "Angels have always been confused with monsters." The seraphim slowly approached her again. "Even Gabriel, delivering the news of the Christ child, began by saying, 'Be not afraid.'" "You are not him!" Angel threw herself forward, unclasped the other's shoulder, and ripped the seraphim's armor down. Before he got in any reaction, Angel forced all her remaining power into her palm and struck him in the chest. The alley went silent for a moment. "Well, that was anticlimactic." Angel slowly raised her head in horror at the lower half of the seraphim's face, exposed and holding a sinister smile. "The Lord says to protect your heart from evil. The Church has taught us how to take that quite literally." It was only then Angel noticed a scar curved around his bicep. In a crazed frenzy, she attacked the spot over and over again, until the seraphim grabbed a hold of her hair and threw her to the ground. Blood and gravel filled her mouth. "You are defeated! Rathbone!" Angel could barely see as one of the remaining men in black handed something to the seraphim, and he tore off her mask. With her vision cleared a little, and her body too weak to resist any longer, she saw he held a knife, and gave out a last scream. "Batgirl, Angel, whatever you want to be called, I need you to respond. Robin and I have been trying to get a hold of you for an hour. What's going on out there?" Batman uttered a little sigh, already sure this demand would have the same result as all those that came before it. Where in the world was she? He wouldn't have been concerned, but according to Oracle, she dropped off the map entirely. Batman and Robin searched and scoured the streets and alleys in search of some sign of their comrade. It was only after Batman's last demand something was finally received. At first a faint humming, then sound in a very low quality. "Your angel is our angel now, Batman." Upon hearing the Seraphim's voice in his cowl, Batman's blood began to run hot as fire. "Oracle! I just got a signal. Where the hell did that come from?" "It looks like it was... help me." Instantly the fires were quenched, and the place they blazed was cool to the point of freezing. "Angel?" Batman asked. Her voice was weak, exhausted and defeated, as if every microsyllable of every word was a great labor to produce. She only said the last 2 words, but they ran right through his chest like a bullet. "Bruce! Bruce! They're by an abandoned warehouse, right next to Amusement Mile." "I'm on my way." Batman's anger overwhelmed him as he ran fast as he could over the rooftops. He commanded Robin to meet him at the scene before he turned back to Angel's frequency and roared, "Don't you dare move! This ends tonight!" At first there was no response, until again, in the fractured quality, the Seraphim said, "Your angel is our angel now, Batman. I heard you the first time!" "Help me." Batman rushed into the Batmobile and tore through the streets as the message repeated over and over again. It was only when he stepped out and examined the blood-stained alley that he realized why. Batman knelt down and found Angel's mask laid upon the ground. A phone played the Seraphim and Angel's last words on endless loop next to it. Batman picked up the phone to find it frozen in this function. No amount of pushing buttons would close the message. It was now clear. The Seraphim and Angel were long gone. And as he raised his head, Batman saw something attached to one of the telephone poles on the opposite end of the alley. He needed to force himself toward it. He suddenly realized it was just a white piece of cloth. There, laid in place by a knife stabbed into the flagpole, was Angel's bat symbol, the white around it covered in drying blood. "Your angel is our angel now."